Yeah, hi there, everybody. This is Captain Tom with the Captain Tom's Sailing Adventures. This is going to be the beginning of episode number 4. And what we're doing here today, guys, is we're going to be talking about marlin spike seamanship and about an unfortunate situation that I saw in another video about some people being rescued. I'm going to go into it at length a little bit. Out there between the Canal Zone and the Marquesas Islands. And of course, let's do a shout out for the guy on the boat that saved them. He's another YouTuber. Seems like a really capable guy. I follow him and a number of other YouTube channels. And my hat's off to him for going and saving those people. And what I thought I'd do, put in my 2 cents worth on this, is to try to go ahead and show a little bit of marlin spike seamanship about some possibilities for how they possibly could have saved themselves and gotten themselves out of danger and saved that guy the trip to have to, when you're out there, you got to follow your mayday calls. I mean, I would do it. Anybody else, I hope they do it for me. Anyway, so that's how episode number 4 is going to go. We're still waiting on the Brazos River down at Matagorda so we can get our boat to the shipyard and head on for Florida and then the islands further on beyond that. Anyway, this is going to be tacked in with the episode number 4. Okay,
Yeah,
Captain
hi
Tom.
there, everybody.
See you a little later.
This is Captain Tom from Captain Tom's Sailing Adventures. And one thing that I noticed on a couple of videos I was watching after we got back from Matagorda, today's the 10th of May. And well, we've been back a few days. We tried to pull the cutlass bearing on the boat. The old cutlass bearing has annealed itself to the strut, and so now we have to wait on the Brazos River to go down so we can get to the shipyard in Freeport, Texas to go ahead and haul the boat out so we can continue on with that part of the repair so we can make it on the way to Florida. What I'm going to do today is I watched a video this morning of a boat that was en route from the Panama Canal Zone to the Marquesas Islands with a bunch of French people on board, and they apparently didn't have much experience or something. I don't know what the deal was, but one of the other sailboat channel guys got a mayday call from them, and he had to go pick them up, and they abandoned. This totally blew my mind. They abandoned a Bavaria 44 that looked like it was in really good shape, except for the broken mast, in the middle of the Pacific, and got onto another boat and just walked away from it. And folks, let me tell you something. If they had abandoned that boat in my neighborhood, it'd be Tom Duran's Bavaria 44 now. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And what they tried to do apparently is they tried to re-step the broken mast for some kind of an A-frame out there or using the boom or something to put up a 60-foot stick in waves that are, rolling around 3 or 4 feet high, 3 or 4 foot chop. Is virtually impossible. But what they could have done is they could have used some marlin spike seamanship, and they could have stepped the boom in the old mast step and then run a line up to the pulpit and rigged a jib on it upside down, and they could have sailed downwind in the trades to Nukuhiva in the Marquesas Islands and made it there fine. They could have radioed somebody 100 or 200 miles out to come bring them some diesel, and they could have motored it the last couple of hundred. They were only, as far as I can tell from the other video, they're only about 1,500 miles from the Marquesas, and that's about a 3,000 mile trip, so they were better than halfway there, man. I've never seen anything like it. And I got to tell you, I was really appalled to see that people will walk away from a $250,000 used boat like that without even giving it. It didn't seem to me like they really gave it much of a try. I don't know, man. But here's what I do know. I know how to tie knots. I've been messing around with boats now for well nigh 50, 55 years. I've been a licensed captain for close to 40. And if you know how to tie knots, I'm doing this first part of video number 4 in the house just to tie a bowline. So here's your basic piece of 1,500 pound test Dacron line. What you do is you make a figure 6. This is going to look backwards to you. You just flip it over like that, grab a hold of it, And what I always do is always stick my index finger out a little bit like this to make sure that I can see what I'm doing. And then you've heard the old adage, man, you got the rabbit right here. The rabbit comes up out of his hole, he runs around the tree, and then he runs back down into the hole, and then there you have it. That's the most useful knot ever devised by mankind. That's a bowline, guys. This knot right here is probably the most important thing you can ever learn on a sailboat in terms of tying knots. If you can tie this one knot, the bowline, you can tie this, you can get yourself out of a world of problems. And what I'm going to do in just a few minutes is I'm going to go out to a tree out there and I'm going to tie something called a bowline on a bite and get a come along. This is your basic Walmart special come along right here. You can buy these at Walmart all day long for about 30 bucks. This thing is rated at about 2,000 pounds, which is pretty good. And it's got a ratchet on it. You can see how it works. It just takes up line. This is steel line right here. It's got a hook on this end with a swivel on it. And it's got a hook down on this end for you to hook into things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to see if I can't get this thing set up at the camera angle so we can get what I've got here on a bike going. It's about 60 feet of line. And like, let's say you were going to use your main sheet or like an old jib sheet or a spinnaker or maybe even a spinnaker halyard. You got a really long piece of line and you don't want to cut it. So you want to tie a bowline so you can get that come along into it. So what you do is you make that same figure 6, okay, that I did inside the house. But this time what you do is you grab a bite. Any length of line like this is called a bite. See how I got it right there? We're going to get that bite right here. And if I can get around so that you can see it better, like so. We're going to get that bite. And the bite's going to be the rabbit. It's going to come up out of the hole, go around the tree, and then go back down to the hole right here. And now you've got a bowline on a bite right here. This is a bowline on a bite on about a 75 or maybe even an 80-foot long piece of line right here. So now I've got a loop tied in this really long line. So what we'll do then, we'll grab the come along right here. And we're going to go to this loop that we've created in this piece of line. We're going to click it onto it like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it over to this post here to show you how it works. I'll have to adjust the camera angle though to make everything work right. So this may actually be in the film frame a little bit, I'm not sure. Maybe a little bit. I don't think so. You can see the line there, you can hear me talking. What I got to do is I got to get another piece of line ready. So we'll go ahead and stop it right there for just a second. Okay, but as you can see, we've got things to line. And what I'm going to do, again, to use this post right here, which is really solid, I'll tie another bowline right here. So here's the rabbit coming up out of the tree, out of the hole, going around the tree. Go back down, there's bowline number 1 right there. Here we got another bowline right here. I'm going to set that over the top of the post right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click into my come along here, and I'm going to start taking up the slack. You can't see it, it's not on camera shot right now, but you'll see it in just a second. I'm bringing this come along up into the picture here, slowly but surely. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie another bowline on a bite. So there's our loop right there. Here's the bite right here, coming up around it, come back through. And there's our bowline on a bite. There's our second bowline on a bite right there. And I'm going to hang it over the post right here. So now, if I turn this and I tilt the thing forward a little bit, you can see that I've got the come along stationed right here, about to come into the shot here. And there's the come along right there. So it's tied. I've got a bowline on this part of the come along, and then we've got a regular bowline and a bowline on a bite on top of that post right there.
And then if I turn the camera this way, you can see I'm running over to the limb of a cedar tree over here about 35 or 40 feet away. And what we're going to do is we're going to start using that come along. So I'm going to set the camera again, if I can. Yeah, I think I can. There we go. Here's the shot. All right, okay. So now I'm going to start using the come along, and you can hear it clicking. One thing about come-alongs is, especially when they're of the inexpensive variety like this is, you have to kind of guide the way it spools onto it a little bit. I'm going to see if I can get that adjusted. Okay, that looks a lot better. The camera's not exactly straight, but you can see what I'm talking about now. Okay, here we go. So you can see this come-along now is doing some work. It's starting to get tighter. And if you look down there towards that cedar tree, we are rapidly going to start bending it. So now we've got a little bit of tension on this little gizmo right here on our come along. And then if we shine the camera over here towards the tree limb, we've got a 6-inch tree limb over there, which is probably got about 500 pounds of bending strength in it, and we're starting to bend it right-handedly, folks. So there it is. That's how this all works. And what you can do is, if you need to, you can do a series of bowlines on a bite. You can do them in sequence right down a line, or if you have a second line, what you can do is you can tie one off, undo the come along, and then go with the, if you have two come alongs, it's even easier. There's nothing to this, man. This is really Mickey Mouse. And when I saw those people out there on that boat, well, for one thing, they didn't need to try to step that mast out there. That was crazy, but they should have. You know, the mast is worth $100 a linear foot, so they had $6,000 worth of mast sitting there on the deck. Even broken, it's still worth a lot of money. They could have shipped it up there, lashed it to the rails for receiving and using it later. And then they could have rigged up the boom with using this even 1,500-pound test line, man. You could double it make a double shroud for all three of them. They give you 3,000 pounds. An upside-down jib you could hank on. I use hanked-on jibs. I don't use roller furling, because roller furling, once you damage it, you can't do a thing with it, man. You're out there with a knife or a pair of scissors cutting the sail off is what you're doing. I don't like them. I don't advocate them. And in-mass furlers, in-mass roller furlers are the worst of the worst, in my opinion. You know, I've been knocking around the water for a long time. They cost a lot of money, and if they ever fail, you're screwed. And so that's the way I look at it. I assume that I'm going to have problems out there. Like Captain Rod said, man, if anything's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong out here, man. Anyway, this is Captain Tom's Sailing Adventures. I showed you a little bit of rigging here, and I'm going to edit it out, and we'll see how it comes out. Talk to you in a little bit. Okay, so have a great day. That finishes up episode number 4, and what we're going to do in number 5 is we're going to go ahead and get Linda's boat, mi sueño, and I'm going to show y'all how we're going to do a jury rig boom using bowlines and some basic marlin spike seamanship to give you an idea as to what you could do on a much larger scale with a boat out there at sea. Everything that I'm doing here can be done at sea. It's just a little bit more difficult. And I hope that you find this informative and enjoy the video. And we're really glad that you're still tuning in. Forgive the editing, man. If I knew as much about editing as I knew about knots, man, I'd be a regular cinematographer. Anyway, good to see y'all again, and we'll see you real soon. It's Captain Tom. Bye.